I don't know who was who, but he obviously read in advance.
Right. Yeah, very good. That's right. Okay, so I think we're on Zoom. Everyone see that it's recording. I'm on an iPad today, so it's a little bit different. I think it's working. Yes, stop. Okay, good. All right, so last we left off, we were on Simon Ration and Bays. So we are, I think, approaching. We were up to the Ramah and Sifdal. We will read the Shulchan Aruch just to remind ourselves of the Shulchan Aruch's position on this. We read the Mishnah Berurah's comments on this particular section of the Shulchan Aruch, but we'll remind ourselves where we were with the Shulchan. So I think on my edition it's page Yud Chet, top left corner. Top left hand corner. Okay. All right. Dal, yeah. So again, just to give John a little sense of where we are, the basic discussion here going on is that things that arrangements that occur, general, we say that malachos that are done or begin, I should say, Erev Shabbos, and then complete on Shabbos are mida oraisa, not a problem at all. We paskin like Beis Hillel that you can't violate a biblical prohibition for an action you did before Shabbos started. However, there are rabbinic laws that come into play here, which do restrict some of that. And what we are discussing right now, in broader terms, what happens when we make arrangements for a non-Jew to do malacha on Shabbos, but we give it to them Erev Shabbos. We've been talking a lot about what happens when you give something to a dry cleaner on Friday, and then they have doing it on Shabbos, even though I didn't tell them to do it on Shabbos. So we're sort of in that space. So Sif Dalla here says, Kol shekatzatz, as long as you fix a price with the non-Jew, that again, my example for the dry cleaner has been, a suit is $10. You know that when you give it to them, a shirt is $3, whatever it is, whatever the number is. Even though the non-Jew will do the malacha. Let's say the non-Jew does the malacha on Shabbos, mutar la Yisrael lubo shakli b'Shabbos atzma, and then they return it to you on Shabbos. They walk it to your house. They bring it over. You are able, according to the Shulchan Aruch, to actually go ahead and put that on Shabbos. Why? Because since I stipulated a price, I fixed the price. I was not interested per se in it being done on Shabbos. And the fact that it got done now is really more about the fact that the non-Jew wanted a daite danafshe. They did it for themselves. They wanted to get it off their work list. They wanted to get paid as soon as possible. They chose to do it on Saturday. They could have done it for all I care on Sunday, and they got it done early. They got it back to me also, and therefore it's mutter because I didn't commission this malacha to be done on Shabbos. That's what the chol shekot is. Daite danafshe, they did it on their own accord on Shabbos. That was what the Shulchan Aruch had said. We're going to see that the Ramah takes a harder line on this one, which was the tradition of some of the later Ashkenazi Rishonim quotes. So he says here, "V'yesh osrin lilovsha." There are those who forbid wearing the garment. Kol sheyadua she'eino Yehudi gemara b'Shabbos, as if you know for sure that the non-Jew did this on Shabbos. They dry cleaned it on Shabbos morning. They got it back to me Shabbos afternoon, and I say, I'd love to put this on for Shalashut, for Mincha and Shalashudis. The answer, according to Ramah, at least according to those who he quotes here from the Maharil and in the name of the Rokeach, you're not allowed to do that. Now, if you're not sure when the malacha was done, that's an interesting question we're going to get into today. That may not be so clear that it's prohibited even according to this approach.
But isn't it likely that the act of just returning it is a malacha? They're getting in their car and driving it over to you, or they're coming from outside an Erev?
It's an excellent point. I didn't even think about that. Right? That the getting it to you may also involve a malacha. Look, at the end of the day, we didn't tell them to bring it back, right? If I did arrange for them to bring it back, then the malacha's on me. right, that they did a malacha on Shabbos, let's say carrying, in a Rosh Hashanah, or as you said, that they drove it. If it's really virtually impossible to walk from the place where the shop is, but that's I think that's more on them. Here, the idea is the problem is using the item, which was sorry for my lack of way I put this. It was malachad, right? The item got malachad because it was dirty and there had to be cleaned. It was whatever you could pick it. I'm using clothing right now, but the malacha happened to the item. Can I use that item? The fact that it was carried, well, yes, carrying can be a problem on Shabbos. Nothing happened to, I'm not benefiting from the change that happened to the malacha, to the item, right? There was a stain on my suit. Now there is no stain on my suit because they cleaned it. So I think there's a little bit of a differentiation, and perhaps this is even independent of that question. So maybe your question, maybe your concern is a fair point, and it would work its way into the calculation here. But maybe perhaps at this point they're assuming without that problem of getting it to there's not a problem to get it to you. But it's a good point. It's something I'm going to try to think about as we're working our way through this. Okay. Let's look at the Mishnah Berurah for a moment before we go back to the Ramah. Mishnah Berurah continues his comments in Chaf Ches. V'yesh osrin ta'amam. The reason that that some say it's osir, the osir la Yisrael lehanos mehamalacha b'Shabbos b'chol gavne. A Jew is not allowed to benefit from malacha done on Shabbos in any manner, even though it was a permissible. I mean, the fact that the non-Jew did it doesn't create a problem. That was fine. That was not the issue here. The non-Jew doing it, they didn't do it because I told them to do it on Shabbos. I didn't, they did. We fixed the price, and that they did it on their own accord. But at the end of the day, sof kol sof, if they bring it back to me on Shabbos, so now I will benefit from something that happened on Shabbos, a malacha that happened on Shabbos. And this approach is that's not okay. Kevan, at the end of the day, they did. The malacha was for you. I didn't tell them to do it on Shabbos. They chose to do it on Shabbos. That was their choice. But at the end of the day, when malacha was done on my behalf, and so I should not benefit from that malacha that was done for me. Okay, that's the theory behind this more machmir approach. Let's look at that back in the Ramah. You're supposed to, if let's say this happens, they return the clothing to you that was cleaned on Shabbos. So now I need to wait after Shabbos is over, the amount of time that it would have taken to actually clean the clothing. So if the actual time that it takes to clean the stains off the clothing is 30 minutes, that's the amount of time that it takes for the cleaner to actually do the cleaning. I just made that up. I realized it could take them longer. I have no idea. To be very honest, I don't know how long it takes them to actually do they have a whole inventory that they have to get for. That's why that's what takes them more time. But the actual time that it took them to do the malacha, that's what you have to wait. That's kadesh yasen, time it takes to actually do it after Shabbos. Because then what will have happened? I will have removed the benefit of the malacha happening on Shabbos. Because if they could have done it after Shabbos, if I wait that amount of time, then I didn't actually benefit from the malacha happening on Shabbos. I will have now waited the amount of time that they could have happened after Shabbos. This is how this is a custom that we adopt ideally, unless there's some need. I would probably venture to say some great need that you need this item on Shabbos. Because then you can be lenient. Again, I say a great need here because the reality is that you weren't expecting to get this item back. It was a surprise to you that you got it back today. So unless there's suddenly some great need that relates to Shabbos, then only that situation then will be lenient to rely perhaps on the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch that it would be okay to wear. Okay, now I think I mentioned this last time. It's worth mentioning again. I told you when I was a rabbinic intern in a shul in New Jersey, in Central Jersey, the community there had a kosher Dunkin' Donuts, and the general policy was that the Jews should not go to the store in 15, 20 minutes immediately following Shabbat. They should wait the amount of time of Kadesh Yasa to make donuts, and then you can purchase the donuts. Again, that's a lichat chila. I think the reality is that's even a different scenario, because there the malacha wasn't necessarily done for you, as the Mishnah said, that was bishvilo, the clothing, it's your suit. The donut is anybody's who comes in to buy it. It's actually a very different scenario. So I remember the rabbi there telling me, he's like, you really probably don't wait that, but that was the communal instruction that you should wait. I don't know how long it takes to bake a donut. As I mentioned last time, sorry to ruin it for everybody. Dunkin' Donuts is already frozen it's already in the freezer. They're heating it up. I'm just sorry. I was once a mashgiach at Dunkin' Donuts. It's not what you think it is. Delicious, but not what you think it is. Okay. So I'm not sure you have to wait more than 5 minutes. How long it take to heat a donut up in a 350 degree oven? Okay. The Ramah here. Sorry, let's look at the Mishnah Berurah. He makes an interesting comment here, which is very relevant. Actually, coming up, very relevant for the upcoming Chagim. Chavtes, this time that it takes to do it. That's how long you have to wait after Shabbos. So that you do not benefit from malacha that happened on Shabbos. This will take away that benefit. Now the time will have elapsed of where they had, in theory, they could have done it right then and there and brought it back to me. And I would never have really, at that point, I don't benefit from the malacha having been done on Shabbos. He says here, and according to this, we have 2 days of Yontif here in the outside of Israel, in the Golus. If let's say the non-Jew does the malacha on day number 1 of Yontif, at the beginning of the second day of Yontif, I'm allowed to engage. Let's use the suit jacket or the suit that was clean. They return the suit on day 1 of Yontif, and let's assume that we even know information that they actually cleaned it on Yontif, on day number 1 of Yontif. Once we get to Bichdei Sheyaseh, at that amount of time, let's say it takes 30 minutes to clean it. So you wait 30 minutes after the second day of Yontif starts, I can then wear the suit. Mimonachshach, no matter how you view this thing. How so? If the first day truly is Yontif, so Hasheni Chol. The second day is day number 2 is a weekday, and therefore once I wait Bichdei Sheyaseh, I'm good to go. If the first day was really a weekday and the second day is truly the first day of Yontiv, so then the malacha happened on a chol, and therefore actually you wouldn't even need to wait any time on the second day. And there's no difference whether it was done, whether the malacha was done for myself personally or for others. And the Sefer Elia Rabbah, he says when it's done for others, when there's a fixed price, so then you can be lenient. What is he talking about here? This is a little bit like the Dunkin' Donuts example I was giving a moment ago. Not perfectly. Right? When it's done bishvilo, that's done for me, like my suit. If it's done for acherim, it's done for other people, not necessarily me specifically. It was done for other people, Klal Yisrael, like the Jewish people. A few people commissioned something, and it was done on Shabbos. When it's that situation, it's much more understandable to be lenient as the Aliyah Rabbah is, because the Malacha was not necessarily done for me. Okay, and maybe then you can be even more lenient to not wait the Bichdei Sheyaseh time. Maybe even you could do it on, you can use it on Shabbos or Yom Tov. But the point here of this of this little comment here is that if you have a malacha done on day number 1 of Yom Tov, you can essentially benefit from it on the second day of Yom Tov. So just something to bear in mind. I know that there are times when certain malachos. So this actually does touch on your question. Somebody asked me here in the shul. No, not in the shul. Sorry, it was an uncle who asked me a question about their parent was visiting them for I think it was Rosh Hashanah, and could you use a wheel? And then there was going to be, they ordered a wheelchair, a newer, better wheelchair for their parent. Could they use this, on the first day? It's supposed to, the arrival date was the first day of Rosh Hashanah. Could they essentially, use this wheelchair? And the answer was on the first day, it's a problem because the delivery was going to come from, on Yom Tov, it was going to come from outside the Tum. It was going to be delivered into this city. And therefore, to Hinda's point, it was going to be, there's going to be violations of Rishus, carrying in Rishus Harabim, maybe even a Tum issue. And I think maybe the first day also was a Shabbos. I don't even remember now. The bottom line is that you couldn't use it on the first day. I asked Rabbi Weeder as well. The second day, we couldn't use it on Rosh Hashanah because on Rosh Hashanah, the second day has a special status called Yoma Arichta. It's viewed as some ways like an elongated day. But if it was a different Yom Tov, Rabbi Weeder was telling me there was a different Yom Tov like Sukkot, then the answer would be yes, you could use that wheelchair that arrives on the second day because what happened on the first day doesn't affect the second day, and any benefit you get. So you'll wait, at the beginning of the second day of Yom Tov. So how long does it take to go from? So I don't know, maybe you wait an hour, 2 hours, the time of the travel that happened on Shabbos of the item, and then you're good to go. Certainly, once you get to the Yom Tov morning, you could definitely use the wheelchair in the question that I had received. Okay, so that's the comment here about Yom Tov Sheni. Let's go back to the Ramah. V'im yesh lislos shenigmar be'erev Shabbos. Motor b'chol inyan. If you can explain this scenario, right? You can be tole. You can, tole means to hang something. You can literally hang this on the fact that it's been done on erev Shabbos, right? So the malacha wasn't done on Shabbos; it was done erev Shabbos. So then, can they bring it to me on Shabbos? Or let's say they bring it to me on Shabbos. The malacha was on erev Shabbos, so muter b'chol inyan. That is permissible in any manner, right? Because the malacha didn't happen on Shabbos. I'm not really benefiting from the malacha. Now, again, you have to assume Hinda's point that you're not violating anything with the carrying issue. Probably Hinda, they were imagining that this was in some little town where the cleaner, is, a block down. It wasn't a major metropolitan city like New York. Even the bigger cities are not like they are today in terms of the size.
Or it's not being delivered by Amazon Prime.
As John points out, right? So it's not coming from very, very far away. So they're probably assuming that it's probably within some sort of eruv. Otherwise, yes, you probably have an issue here of benefiting from the fact that it was, I think, carried to you. As we discuss this more, I think that is a problem. So then that's okay. But dafka im shiger lo haino Yehudi leveso aval aser likach kelim mi beis hauman b'Shabbos v'Yom Tov. That's when is it okay? If the non-Jew brings it, they give it to me. They come bring it to my house and they bring it to me. But if I go to them, I go to the shop, I go to the store, and I pick it up from them. Even forget the money part of it. Let's say we work out the money part ahead of time, right? Or we, he'll pay. It's an IOU. I'll pay him after Shabbos. Then I cannot take it from the place where he did the work, whether it's Shabbos or whether it's Yom Tov. Okay, look at the Mishnah Berurah. So he says here, the yesh matirim b'chol inyan. Then it's allowed in any calculation. V'im haya hamina metukan be'erev Shabbos, rak shetikno vehechaliko b'Shabbos shari. He says, let's say it's a shoemaker, or a shoe polisher, whatever. They fix a shoe. That's the person who fixes a shoe. What's their name? Is there a name for that person? There is. John can't remember it either. I don't remember what the name is for the person who fixes the cobbler. Is it a cobbler? Cobbler. So I remember. Okay. My grandparents will be proud of me. Let's say you have the shoe being fixed by the cobbler, and they fix it on erev Shabbos. And on Shabbos, they're just, they're doing a few, they're just smoothing it out. But like, I could wear it at this point. They fixed it. The sole is good. They're putting some, nice touches to make it look, to put a bow on it, essentially. But but if not, without those little touch-ups, it's usable now, right? The sole is now reattached to the shoe. So then, that would still be permissible, right? Even though they did a little touch-ups on Shabbos, because I'm not benefiting from the malacha. It was usable Erev Shabbos, right? The dry cleaning example, the stain was already gone before Shabbos started. They just wanted to, iron it out a little bit. Ukamosha Kasim Simon Ration and Gimel Sibalaf Bahagad, as we'll see in the next simon over there, a similar concept when we talk about all the laws of cooking, or cooking as you go into Shabbos. Huadim Klei Pishtan. The same law would apply to linen clothing. Shenosam ha'eno Yehudi tachas hamachbesh b'Shabbos. They put it under the press on Shabbos. Again, so let's say it was done Erev Shabbos, and then on Saturday they kind of they touch it up. They make it they make it nice and straight. No creases or wrinkles. But essentially, what was the main part of the malacha was done. So shari gam kemi tamzeh. That is permissible also for this reason. So that's again a little bit of a heter here. All right, we'll just finish up with one more thing. Bye, John. So take a look at Lamed Aleph and Lamed Beis. Likach kelim va'afilu yodea vadai. Even if you know for sure, shenigmar kodem Shabbos, the malacha was done. You know for sure the malacha was done before Shabbos, the Yom Tov or Yom Tov. Va'afilu imhu l'tzorach Shabbos, and you're like, this l'tzorach Shabbos. I'm going to use this on Shabbos, so I'll go over to his shop and I'll pick it up. V'hatam, why can't I pick it up from the non-Jew store? If they marisayin, because it gives off a wrong impression. What will people say? The Yomer b'Shabbos aso midas Yisrael. They're picking it up on Shabbos because they just completed the malacha on Shabbos, and the Jew told them to do it on Shabbos. People will get the wrong impression. They'll think I'm a Machalel Shabbos, and which is not the truth. And the Isa ba'levush, the levush, who one of the Rishonim says, "Dafilu im lo yiviem biyodo." Right? Ela yil bashem sham beveis ha'eno Yehudi. Let's say you'll do a little trick, right? You won't carry it out, on the hanger, right? What will you do? You'll come to the store, you'll change in the store, you'll wear them, right? In the non-Jews store, and you'll walk out with it. So now I'm just wearing my clothing. Gam kain asur mitam says, no, when you're not fooling anybody, apparently people will know that you picked up that suit from the dry cleaner on Shabbos. Again, even if the malacha was done Erev Shabbos, so you didn't benefit from the malacha happening on Shabbos. All right. And by the way, there for sure, Hinda, you circumvent the Erev problem because you're wearing it. So good all. Okay. The Kasav HaMagen Avram. The Magen Avram writes here, the Efshar Dafilu Ayde Eno Yehudi Asur Lahavio, the Uvda Decholhu. Now he throws a monkey wrench into this whole thing. The Magen Avram says, perhaps it's even possible that even, by the hands of the non-Jew, it would be, problematic for them to bring it to you, because it's considered an uvda dechol. This is a weekday. It's a weekday activity. Don't ask me how to define this category. I remember. I don't remember who said this. Which Rebbe, Rosh Hashiva. The uvda dechol is like one of the hardest categories to define, when it comes to Hilchot Shabbat, because you could say anything is a weekday activity. So how do you define what is and what isn't in this category? Basically, one of the, I don't know quote a Rebbe because I don't remember which one said this to me. It's like it's uvda dechol when they say it's uvda dechol. Other than that, you don't know how it's uvda dechol. So I don't know how this one, in my Dirshu edition of the Mishnah Berurah, they say here, together, uvda dechol kasav hakalkelas hashabbos shelo asur cham asiyas peulos mesuyamos ela be'echad mishlosha ofan. There are three ways that it's uvda dechol. Number one, masa sheyesh lochu shama yavo al yado lasos malacha. Maybe because of what you're doing, you will ultimately end up doing a malacha. Right? You're doing something weekday-ish, and then you will end up doing a malacha as a result of it. That's still a very vague definition. How do you know what's going to lead you to doing a malacha? Number two, he writes here, Masa sheyesh batircha yisera. There's great tircha involved. You're starting to carry something that's 50, 60 pounds. That's tircha yisera. That's in the get there of uvda dechol, right? That's you're like picking up. You're like schlepping moving boxes that are very heavy. Okay, again, hard to define what is considered a tircha yisera for one person is not a tircha yisera for another person. I don't know. Number 3, pe'ula hadoma la'achas milamed tes malachos. Something that looks like one of the 39 malachos. That's an interesting one. It's doma to the 39 malachos, but not actually a malacha. The Igros Moshe, the Moshe Feinstein writes, she'uvda dechol hu ka'asher osa es hamalacha b'tzura tova. You do the malacha in a fine way. It's fine. Kemo hamalacha hakavua she'osa b'chol. But like the way you do it during the weekdays, lo nikar she'osa osa derech harai. And you're not doing this as a temporary, action. Below hakpada al malacha sheteyasa yafa. And perhaps you're not going to be careful that the malacha is done the right way, where it's not a violation of Shabbos. So it's when you're sort of coming up to the line of violating a malacha. You may actually not, if you do it the malacha in a tova way, in a good way, but you could do it also in a non-tova way, and therefore you have to be careful altogether. Just to add some more color to this definition, or Shlomo Zalman Auerbach writes, he thinks that uvda dechol is kol pe'ula sheregilim lasos osa b'shah shemisaskim b'davar she'asur lasos b'shabbos. So when you're doing something normally, any action that is normally done at a particular time, at a time when you're being misasek with something else that is problematic for Shabbos. So if it's a malacha, if it's an action that's done that is done in conjunction normally with something that would be prohibited on Shabbos, even though the thing I'm doing is not prohibited, then that thing is not allowed because of uvda dechol, because it's connected in some way to a malacha that it would be done on Shabbos. And he says, the Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says here at the end of the day, it's not so clear how to define this category. So that's why I'm repeating the words of one of my Rebbeim, which is it's uvda dechol when they say it's uvda dechol. I don't know fully how to define this category. The Magen Avraham throws a monkey wrench in this whole thing, and he says maybe it's uvda dechol for them to bring it to you. Why? I'm not sure. I'm not even sure. Why that would be a problem. My sense is that. I actually don't have a good sense about what is there. Do we follow the Magen Avraham or do we follow the opinion that's listed above? My sense is that we probably would follow the Ramah's opinion here on this issue. We have many times when we end up benefiting from certain malachos that an Andrew does. Erev Yontif, it was done. Erev Shabbos, something is done, and it'll be dropped off by us sometimes on Shabbos. This stuff does happen. It'll be dropped off here, from one of the local stores, something. And we've benefited from it. So my sense is not like the Magen Avraham, but I don't have a full sense of the Bnei Yisrael on this issue. Lastly, Lamed Beis, and then we'll call it a day here. Mi Beis Ha'uman. You bring this from the Beis Ha'uman, from the place, the shop, the non-Jews shop. The Ein Chiluk Bein Yisrael Eino Yehudi. There's no chiluk here whether the store is a Jewish store or a non-Jewish store, because the malacha was done before and it's just sitting in the store. So let's say that the Jews, the business is closed, by the way, or something like that, and you just say, oh, can I pick up the thing from you? Can you leave me the key? I'll go in, I'll take the thing myself, and don't worry. That's not allowed, because at the end of the day, people will still think that the malacha was done for you, commissioned by you on Shabbos. When you walk into the store and bring out, the dry cleaning bag. Okay, so we'll stop here. We'll see next time. We'll finish up the Ramah's comments here. He's gonna really specify, specify a little further that this is, that these were kalim that were done for a Jew, and not just stam. They were done for anybody. Right, if a non-Jew is going to just, let's say, make they make shoes. It's a shoe store. They make shoes and they do whatever they want. They could sell it to anybody in theory. And they happen to say, oh, here, actually take these, Yankel the Jew, and you'll pay me later. But I was just, take a pair. Then it'll be a different situation, which we'll talk about next time, and then we'll talk about also. We'll move a little bit off the topic of non-Jews doing malachos on your behalf, and we'll talk about what happens in a garden. Let's say if you you leave the water running in a garden, Erev Shabbos into Shabbos, and now your plants are getting your flowers and your plants or your crops are being watered the entirety of Shabbos. Is that allowed? Is that not allowed? Is there some rabbinic prohibition that's attached to it? Have a great day, everybody. And,
Thank you.
next time.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you, Rabbi. Beautiful. Yasher koach.
Thank you, Baruch. All the best. Stop that.